Ethan Hayes was 73 years old, a retired firefighter, widower, and still the kind of man who woke up every morning at sunrise to walk his Labrador, Max. Independent, strong, a survivor of life's toughest flames. But one ordinary morning, his neighbor found him unconscious on the bathroom floor. No blood, no fall, no warning, just silence. Behind that silence was a private act at the wrong time. One decision, a seemingly harmless moment of pleasure, nearly ended everything. I'm Dr. Lucas Bennett, a senior wellness specialist with over 25 years of experience, helping older adults reclaim their strength without shame, guesswork, or risky medications. And what I'm about to reveal may shock you, because while younger men are often told that self-pleasure is normal, even healthy, for men over 60, the timing of this habit can quietly become one of the most dangerous decisions they make. Not because of morality, but because of physiology. Blood pressure surges, heart rhythm shifts, falls, blackouts, even sudden death. This isn't fear-mongering, it's fact. And it's the reason so many strong, capable men lose their independence in a single moment. If you're over 60, this is the video no one warned you to watch, but your body is begging you to hear. Press 1 now to discover the most dangerous time of day for seniors to masturbate and the hidden consequences you need to know. Ethan never thought twice about it. He'd wake up, stretch, drink half a glass of water, and sometimes, in the stillness of the early morning, indulge in a little release. It was his way of staying connected to himself, especially after losing his wife 3 years ago. No harm, no foul, or so he thought. But one morning, everything changed. He had just finished, still standing, the bathroom mirror fogged from the heat of the shower, and then black, just like a switch flipped. He woke up in a hospital room with a bandage on his forehead and a sharp pain in his hip. The nurse told him he'd passed out, hit the edge of the sink, and lay unconscious for at least 20 minutes before his neighbor, Victoria, knocked and eventually called 911. The diagnosis? Orthostatic hypotension, a sudden drop in blood pressure, triggered by a combination of dehydration, post-sleep hormone surges, and unexpected physical exertion. The doctor gently asked if he had engaged in any activity that might have elevated his heart rate. Ethan, embarrassed, nodded. That moment broke him. He couldn't walk without a cane for 3 months. The independence he cherished was suddenly gone. And worse, he realized that no one had ever warned him that something as natural, as normal, as private as masturbation could carry such serious risks at his age. The doctor told him, "Ethan, you didn't do anything wrong. You just did it at the wrong time." That line haunted him. How many other men were waking up every morning doing the same thing, unaware that their bodies, weakened subtly by age, medications, or undiagnosed heart conditions, were no longer able to handle that sudden surge of stimulation? How many more would fall, alone, unseen, and unprepared? Ethan's story isn't rare, it's just rarely told, because the truth is uncomfortable, and yet it's exactly the kind of truth that could save lives. That's why Dr. Lucas made it his mission to reveal the 7 specific times of day when older men are most at risk, and the one time that's actually safest. Because after 60, timing isn't just important, it's everything. A week after leaving the hospital, Ethan tried to return to his normal routine. He moved slower now, with a cautious hand on railings, and Max, his dog, never strayed far. But something lingered, a deep unease, like his body had betrayed him. One afternoon around 2:30 p.m., he felt the familiar wave of tiredness hit, that post-lunch lull. He settled into his recliner, closed his eyes, and then, without much thought, gave in to that quiet, intimate urge again. "I'm sitting, I'm safe," he told himself. But as he stood up minutes later, his legs wobbled. The room tilted. He reached for the armrest, missed, and fell, his shoulder slamming into the hardwood floor. No loss of consciousness this time, but pain, radiating, deep, sharp. X-rays later showed a torn rotator cuff, another recovery, another loss of freedom. And this time he was angry, not just at himself, but at the silence around all of it. When he asked his doctor why this kept happening, the answer stunned him. Most older adults experience a natural dip in blood pressure and alertness between 2 and 4 p.m. Add arousal or climax into that fragile mix, and you're setting off a chain reaction the body may not be able to handle. That's when Ethan learned about something called postural hypotension, the steep drop in blood pressure that happens when seniors move too quickly from sitting or lying down to standing, especially during or after any form of exertion. He wasn't alone. In fact, the doctor said dozens of cases just like his happened every year, most never spoken about. Some blamed on age, some on accidents, and many left unexplained. But the pattern was always there, a private act done during a fragile window, leading to a cascade of injuries. That day, Ethan realized this wasn't about shame. It was about strategy. His body was no longer working on autopilot, and if he didn't adjust to that reality, something worse could happen next time. Something he might not walk away from. He wasn't done living, but now every decision, even the private ones, had to be made with care. For most of his life, Ethan never gave much thought to his body's limits. He was the kind of man who could climb ladders, lift heavy things, and power through colds without missing a beat. But now even standing up too fast felt like a risk. Something had changed, and not just physically. After his second fall, he found himself sitting alone on his porch one evening, the sun dipping low, Max's head resting quietly on his foot. And for the first time, he let the question sink in. What else do I need to relearn about this aging body I thought I understood? That moment was the shift. It wasn't just about avoiding injury anymore. It was about reclaiming ownership over his body's rhythm, understanding it, respecting it, and working with it, not against it. He began journaling everything: what time he woke up, when he felt most alert, how often he drank water, what foods made him feel steady, and most importantly, when his urges came and how his body responded. He realized his body wasn't broken. It was just different now, more sensitive, less forgiving, but also wiser if he was willing to listen. One morning around 10:30 a.m., after a walk, breakfast, and a full glass of water, he felt the familiar urge. This time, though, there was no rush. He was calm, his body felt steady, and afterward, for the first time in weeks, there was no dizziness, no confusion, just a gentle sense of relief. That's when it clicked. Timing mattered, hydration mattered, emotional state mattered. What used to be a mindless routine now became a mindful act, not out of fear, but out of respect for what his body had carried him through all these years. Ethan wasn't ashamed anymore. He was empowered by knowledge, by awareness, by the quiet courage to stop pretending that age hadn't changed anything. He started talking about it with his doctor, with a few friends at the senior center, even in a private online forum for older men. And the messages he got in return shocked him. Dozens of men saying, "No one ever told me this. Thank you, he wasn't alone anymore. And neither are you." After weeks of trial and error, Ethan started to notice something incredible. He wasn't just avoiding danger. He was beginning to feel stronger, clearer, more in tune with his body than he had in years. It all started with a simple schedule. He blocked out his late mornings, between 9 a.m. and 11 a.m., as wellness hours. No phone, no chores, just a quiet time to walk, hydrate, stretch, and check in with himself. Sometimes that meant journaling, sometimes reading, and sometimes, if the moment felt right, intimacy without shame or rush. And what happened next surprised even him. His energy lasted longer throughout the day. He stopped experiencing the afternoon crashes that used to leave him groggy and foggy. His sleep improved, his mood lifted, even his appetite returned to normal. All because he had aligned his routine with his biology, not his habits. But the real opportunity came when he shared this discovery with Dr. Lucas. The doctor looked him in the eye and said, "Ethan, this is how we turn aging into power, not by avoiding what's natural, but by engaging with it wisely." That phrase stuck. Ethan realized he wasn't being punished by age. He was being invited to participate more consciously in his own well-being. It wasn't about giving up pleasure. It was about elevating it to a form of self-care. He started sharing tips with his small circle of friends at the community center. A few chuckled at first, but eventually they opened up. One man admitted he'd been afraid to talk about his own blackouts. Another revealed he'd been waking up with headaches and didn't know why. Ethan showed them his hydration routine, talked about posture, even printed out a simple chart with green zones and red zones for daily stimulation timing. It sparked something. For the first time, a room full of aging men were talking openly, not just about intimacy, but about health, vulnerability, and how to protect what mattered most: their dignity, their strength, their independence. What began as a terrifying wake-up call had become an opportunity, not just for Ethan, but for every man willing to listen. 6 months later, Ethan was almost unrecognizable, not because he looked younger, but because he carried himself with the confidence of a man who finally understood his body and honored its limits. He no longer feared intimacy. He respected it, managed it, and more importantly, he used it as a tool, not a crutch. His morning routine had become sacred. Wake up slowly, stretch, hydrate, walk max, and check in with himself. Some days the urge came, some days it didn't, but whenever it did, he no longer felt nervous. He trusted his timing, his rhythm, his awareness, and it changed everything. The cane he once relied on gathered dust in the closet. His blood pressure stabilized. His sleep deepened. But the biggest transformation wasn't physical, it was emotional. He felt proud again. He started volunteering twice a week at a local men's wellness group, not as a patient, but as a mentor, sharing his story with humility, candor, and strength. And what started as a small room of hesitant men grew into a weekly gathering where nothing was off limits. They talked about medications, prostate issues, sleep problems, and yes, self-pleasure. One of the newer members, Caleb, a 68-year-old retired truck driver, pulled Ethan aside one evening and said, "I thought I was the only one going through this. I thought I was just weak." Ethan looked him in the eye and replied, "You're not weak. You're just finally starting to pay attention." That's what this journey had taught him. Strength wasn't about powering through pain. It was about listening. adapting, knowing when to move forward and when to slow down. Ethan wasn't just surviving, he was teaching others how to thrive. And every time he saw a man walk out of that group a little taller, a little clearer, he knew that his own fall hadn't been for nothing. His pain had opened a door, one that too many men had kept shut. Ethan stood in front of the group one crisp Thursday morning, a quiet strength in his voice as he looked around at the faces of men who, like him, had once believed they were invincible. "I used to think aging meant shrinking, becoming less," he said, "but I've learned it can mean expanding into wisdom, into intention, into power." The room was silent, not because they didn't understand, but because they did, deeply. What began as a terrifying fall in a bathroom had become something far more meaningful. It had exposed a hidden truth that even the most natural parts of life, like pleasure, require new understanding with age. It wasn't about giving anything up, it was about choosing with care. Ethan had discovered what few men are ever taught, that timing, hydration, posture, stress, and self-awareness all intersect to create either risk or resilience. And in that discovery, he'd unlock the next phase of his life. He no longer saw intimacy as something to be whispered about or hidden in shame. Instead, it became a conscious act of honoring the body he still lived in, not the one he used to have. And he shared that message every week with every man who needed it. "Gentlemen," he'd say, "we're not broken. We're just different now. And if we treat our bodies with the respect they deserve, we don't have to fear the future, we get to shape it." That message rippled far beyond the walls of their meeting space. Some began changing their routines. Others had conversations with doctors they'd avoided for years. A few even started leading groups of their own. Ethan never set out to become a guide. He simply refused to be silent about something that nearly cost him everything. And in that honesty, he gave others permission to speak, to question, and most importantly, to grow. His journey wasn't about avoiding death. It was about choosing how to live, with intention, with dignity, with strength. And now that you know what he knows, the next step is yours. Growing older doesn't mean giving up what makes life rich. It means learning how to engage with it differently. Ethan's journey taught us that what once felt automatic must now be intentional. The body after 60 becomes more sensitive, more reactive, and yes, more vulnerable, but also wiser if we choose to listen. Pleasure isn't dangerous, but ignoring the body's timing, hydration needs, and recovery windows is. This isn't about shame, it's about empowerment, knowing when your body is most stable, most alert, and least likely to suffer strain. The greatest tragedy isn't age, it's silence. When we fail to speak about the realities of senior health, we trap men in preventable suffering. Ethan broke that silence, and in doing so, reclaimed his strength. The lesson? Your habits matter, your timing matters, and your life still holds immense value when guided by awareness. Starting today, take 5 simple steps. 1. Hydrate first thing in the morning. Aim for a full glass of water. 2. Wait at least 90 minutes after waking before any intense activity. 3. Avoid self-stimulation right after meals, during emotional stress, or when feeling fatigued. Use late morning, 9 to 11 a.m., as your ideal window for any intimate moment. 5. Journal your patterns. Note energy levels, hydration, emotional state, and how your body responds. This awareness can prevent falls, dizziness, and long-term strain. It's not about restriction, It's about choosing the right moment for your body's current rhythm. With small adjustments, you don't lose freedom. You protect it. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this, please like and share with your friends. Your support keeps these stories alive. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss a new episode. And if today's story touched your heart, leave a comment. I'd love to hear from you. Take care, stay well, and see you in the next story.